So, hi guys! So, good evening. So, I hope nasa mabuti kayong kalagayan ngayon habang pinapanood nyo itong video namin na to. At malayo kayo sa sakit. So, without further ado, let's proceed to our topic. So, our topic is cluster analysis. So, what is cluster analysis nga ba? So, cluster analysis is a group of multi-variate techniques whose primary purpose is to group objects. So, from the word cluster or to group its objects. So, like the example nito is the piso. So, kung meron mga group ng piso, doon lang siya sa grupo ng piso, ganun. Then, kung sa grupo lang naman ng 5 pesos, doon lang siya sa grupo ng 5 pesos. Then, kung grupo ng 10 pesos, doon lang sa grupo ng 10 pesos. So, yun ang easy way kung paano explain ang clustering. So, finding the groups of cases of observations, objects in the population such that the objects are homogeneous with the group of high intra-class similarity. So, yun yung sinasabi ko kanina sa mga grupo-grupo ng piso, ganun. Heterogeneous between the groups or low interclass similarity. So, objectives of cluster analysis. So, cluster analysis, hindi lang siya isang way. So, madami pa siyang way. Like, magbibigay tayo ng examples. Nandito yun. Magbibigay tayo ng examples ng cluster analysis. So, dito siya mga ginagamit. So, the first one are the taxonomy description. So, what is taxonomy description? So, identifying group within the data. So, kung ano yung, kunwari, kunyari, hatiin natin tong grupo na to, i-identify niya lang kung ano tong grupo na to. Then, for the second group, and for the third group. So, ayun. I-identify niya kung ano tong mga to. Ganun. Yun ang kanang taxonomy. So, the second one are the data implication. So, the ability to analyze groups of similar observations instead of all individual observation. Ganun. So, dito sa data implication, so, kunwari, kung titignan nyo dito, is pare-parehas sila. Pero sa data implication, ma-analyze natin dito kung ano ba yung pagkakaiba nito sa second group at saka sa third group, ganun. So, i-analyze niya yung individual observation nila. Ayan. So, the third one are the relationship identification. So, what is this? So, the simplified structure from CA portrays relationship not revealed otherwise. So, ayun. So, the next proceed tayo. So, theoretical, conceptual, and practical consideration must be observed when selecting clustering variables for CA. So, the first one are the only variables that relate specifically to objectives of the CA re-included. So, the second one are the variables selected characterize the individuals or object being clustered. So, ayun. So, from here, sinasabi niya na inaayos na niya kung ano yung mga pagkakaiba-iba nila, ganun. So, kung dito ba, may relate ba siya dito sa grupo na to, ganun. Or, basta yun, kinakluster na sila as a group by group. What is a good quality clustering? So, from here, bibigay namin kung ano yung, or paano natin malalaman if that group of cluster is a good quality or maganda ba yung pagkakluster sa kanila, ganun. So, meron iba't ibang ways para malalaman yun. So, the first one, proceed tayo. So, a good clustering method will produce high quality clusters with, so, ito siya, high intra-class similarity, and the second one are the low interclass similarity. So, next so the quality of a clustering result depends on the both similarity measure used by the method and its implementation. So, ayun. So, the third one are the quality of a clustering method is also measured by its ability to discover some or all of the hidden patterns. So, ayun. Dito natin makikita sa mga sinabi kong ito kung yung cluster ba na yun is a good quality cluster, ganun, or maganda pa yung pagka-cluster sa kanya. So, ayun. So, type of clusters. So, ano nga ba to? So, meron tayong iba't ibang types pagdating sa clustering. So, first one are the partial clustering or non-hierarchical, a division of objects into non-overlapping subsets or clusters such that each object is in exactly one cluster. So, ayun. So, yung sinasabi ko na yun, kung ano yung kung kaya itong grupo na to, itong personal clustering or non-hierarchical is sineset niya yung iba't ibang group. Kunyari, kung ito is orange, yung orange na to is nandito lang. So, nakaset na siya, nakakluster na siya as orange. So, kunyari, ito naman if green, ika-cluster niya ulit, ito lang siya. Lahat ng green is nandito. So, lahat din naman ng red is nandito. Ganun. So, ganun ang partial clustering. Na sineset niya sa kung ano yung magkakasama. So, ayun. So, the non-hierarchical methods divide a dataset of n objects into m clusters. So, K means clustering. A non-hierarchical technique is the most commonly used one in business analytics. So, ayun, ginagamit din pala to pagdating sa business analytics. So, the second one are the hierarchical clustering. A set of nested clusters organized as hierarchical tree. So, hierarchical methods produce a set of nested clusters in which each pair of objective or clusters is progressively nested in a larger cluster unit only. One cluster remains. So, ayun. So, ginagawa to. CHAD tree is, so, in short, ang tawag sa kanya is CHAD tree. So, CHAD tree. So, is the most widely used in business analytics. So, ayun. So, parang gumagawa siya ng mga, like, kung ikuha natin siya is parang ganito siya. So, para din siyang pyramid, parang ganun. Ayan. So, magkaka-connect sila dito. Kunyari, ito. Kunyari, ito yung tatlo. Then, isa-set niya to. Kunyari, ito yung green. Andito yung green, orange, blue, red, ganun. Tapos, isa-set niya rin dito na dalawa na lang sila. Ganun. Hanggang sa, isa na lang yung matira, ganun. So, ganun yung pagsiset niya. Yun ang CHAD tree na tinatawag nila. Para rin food pyramid, parang ganun. So, from the top to bottom. Yan. So, quantify the similarity or distance measure. So, to measure similarity between two observations, a distance measure is needed. So, with a single variable, similarity is straightforward. So, example, income, two individuals are similar if their income level is similar. And the level dissimilarity increases as the income gap increases. So, second one are the multiple variables required on aggregate distance measure. So, one of it is the many characteristics like income, age, consumption, habits, family, composition, owning a car, education level, or job. So, it becomes more difficult to define similarity with a single value. So, ayun. So, yun ang multiple variables required sa aggregate distance measure. So, the most known measure of distance is the Euclidean distance, which is the concept we use in everyday life for spatial coordinates. So calculating the distance. So in this slide, makita natin na like yung cluster 1, 2, and 3. So cluster 1 is versus class 2, 68 minus 42 is equals to 4. So yun ang isa sa example ng paano mag-calculate ng distance within the clusters. So the second one are the cluster 1 versus cluster 2. The cluster 1 is 68, which is weight, and the age is 25, and the cluster 2 is 72 of weight and age of 70. So square root 68 minus 72 and square root of 2 plus 25 minus 70 and square root of 2 again. 40 is equal to 44.9. So ayun, yun isa sa example niya paano mag-calculate ng distance. So one of the clustering algorithm that we have, so we have an example here. So it is the k-mean clustering algorithm. So what is this? So the k-means algorithm takes the input parameter k from the user and partition the dataset containing n objects into k clusters so that resulting similarity among the data objects inside the group intra-cluster so is a high, but similarity of data objects with the data objects from outside cluster is low or what they called inter-cluster. So this is the example of it. So second one are the hierarchical clustering. So this is the last example of what we have said earlier, na pero madami pang clustering techniques or algorithms. So this is it. So clusters are created in levels, actually creating sets of clusters at each level. So one of it is the agglomerative. So initially each item in its own cluster. So iteratively clusters are merged together, and the last one is the bottom up. So the second part of the hierarchical clustering is the divisive. So divisive is partially within 3. So the first one is the initially all items in one cluster. So large cluster are successively divided, and the last one are top down. So that's all. Thank you guys, thank you for listening, and keep safe as always.